Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're looking at the situation that is happening in Ukraine and how it's going to affect the social affairs on the African continent as well as economic affairs on the African continent. Because we do have many students studying in Ukraine and some other people that are just residing in Ukraine and Eastern Europe. So basically, this war is going to affect them and it's going to affect people at home. But we are currently looking at the mid-range, which is situated between Johannesburg and Pretoria, close to the vicinity of the African War. So this is not what we're trying to talk about. We're trying to talk about the economic impact that is going to affect the continent. And we're going to listen to one of the great leaders, or the former vice president of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Nervous Mumba, and what he's saying about some of the situations. Learning from the past, when the Zambian economy was under the embargoes after they had cut ties with other businesses, trying to support the some static countries that were still struggling and trying to find their feet in getting independence. So they had to reject some of the companies that were in the countries like Coca-Cola, etc. And afterwards, they introduced their own companies. Tarino, Tip Top, Quench, and all those kind of products were locally produced. But unfortunately, acquisition came in after everything was open, when the economy was open. Acquisition came in, and those companies were taken over.
Ukraine and Zambia, then also the bilateral relation between Russia and Zambia. This is step number one. What are we going to lose as a result of that war? Remember, we get several things from Ukraine, including fertilizer. It's a place where a lot of our students and doctors are trained. We have a lot of bilateral arrangements with Ukraine. So with the war breaking out, it means that those services or opportunities will probably come to a halt for the period of the war. We have to look at Russia. How do we benefit from Russia and how do we relate with Russia? Let's also assume that those services and things we get from Russia and do with Russia may have to be suspended and during the course of this war. We need to go step number two to anticipate further. What if this war goes beyond the two countries? The European Union through NATO is involved, and the United States of America is involved, and then China is involved, and India is involved on whichever side they choose. That in itself pronounces a third world war without question. Then we also have to think ahead of time what this implication would mean for us. And it's a lack of planning and thinking for ourselves and waiting for the outcome of such wars to give to us what the wars will produce that makes Africa always beg and be behind. God has given an opportunity to individuals, to communities and nations to take advantage of a crisis to do something else and something new. When Coca-Cola was withdrawn from Zambia and an embargo, rather because Kenneth Kaunda didn't want Coca-Cola in this country as a way of protesting during the time that we're fighting for the freedoms of our colleagues in the SADC region, in the frontline states, Zambia had to look elsewhere to make other drinks like Tip Top, which became our own creation. And therefore, we didn't have to miss Coca-Cola because in that crisis, we had to look at other options. This is what I mean by thinking outside the box. Obviously, let's look, for instance, for the fertilizer that is pretty cheap that comes from Ukraine. Maybe we now need to look inward to see how we're going to double up our production of our own fertilizer and invest more in our own plants and businesses that produce fertilizer. That way we are growing our own capacity at home. If this war goes bigger than it is and into other European countries and the United States, we're going to see how we're going to be affected financially. So we need to start to create capacity, our own financial capacity within our country, and strengthen the trade between ourselves and other African countries. That's thinking outside the box. What is wrong is for us to sit watching CNN and BBC, waiting for the outcome of this war to dish out to us whatever it does. We should never go in there. Let's ensure that food security is locally managed and locally stored. Let us think of expanding, the intra-Africa trade to ensure that even if something drastic happened, you know, in those countries overseas, Africa could start to reorganize itself, use its own resources, manage its own resources, and create its own financial systems so that we can survive. The truth of the matter is that the war going on in Europe is not our war, it's their war. But unfortunately, the repercussions will hit us just as badly, if not worse.
There you have it, Fox. So you misunderstand and remember that you can always do best at home. In other words, homeschooling is the best. So it's not only a homeschooling that you have to study from home, but basically studying in the locality is very important. And one of the things that we would like to emphasize on is we need to work on this curriculum. It's not like everything that you're going to learn elsewhere is the best. You could change and play around, work around your curriculum to make it perfect to suit the needs of your society and the need of other people that is going to help you propel economically. So these are things that we need to think deeply in as Africans. And it's so pathetic that we're still just imitating and following what has been taught from other peoples of the world. That's quite something that we need to think deeper and start working on. And again, the language is help because you're going to be beaten in the language. If you utilizing studying using other people's language, you're not going to be that intense academically because you have to interpret what you're learning in that language. Then afterwards, interpret it in your mother tongue. Then afterwards, get to understand what probably the author of the textbook that you're utilizing is trying to inculcate. So that's where the problem is. So we must understand that homeschooling is always the best, and the best thing that you're going to learn is the things that you learn from your own parents, from your own surrounding, and then see how you could develop that and probably invent something that could be more helpful. So if you're watching for the first time, please consider subscribing, give us a like, and click the notification bell so that you're notified every single time we post a new video. We always appreciate you coming back to watch us on this channel. We highly appreciate you, and please, we would love to see more subscribers. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye.